Okay, so let's get right into it. We hear about the drug trade all the time, right? But what does that actually mean? Well, it's not just a criminal problem. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar global business with a supply chain so sophisticated it would make some of the world's biggest companies jealous. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that business and follow the product all the way from its source deep in the jungle to its final market. So let's start our journey in Culiacan, Mexico, which is basically the headquarters for the Sinaloa cartel. And to really get a grip on their power, you first have to understand their appeal. You see, for kids growing up there, this isn't just a career choice, it's an aspiration. They see the narcos not as bad guys, but as heroes, symbols of success and power in a place where good opportunities are pretty hard to come by.
And that dream is fueled by an absolutely staggering amount of cash. Just look at this number, $3 billion. That's the estimated revenue for the Sinaloa cartel in a single year. So yeah, we're not talking about street gangs here. This is a story about a corporate empire with profits that totally dwarf a lot of legitimate multinational companies.
Now, in a city like Culiacan, the line between the government and the cartel, it's not just blurred, it's pretty much gone. For all intents and purposes, the cartel is the state. They employ over 100,000 people, way more than the local police force. They control the streets with this huge network of lookouts and informants. Guys disguised as windshield cleaners or even street clowns. It's total top-down control. And it's run with military precision.
And get this show of power, it doesn't stop when they die. What you're looking at here, this is a narco graveyard. And these aren't just tombs. They're more like luxury condos for the afterlife. We're talking $700,000 mausoleums, complete with bulletproof glass, Italian marble, even balconies. It's the ultimate power move, basically saying our influence goes beyond life itself.
So all that wealth and power, where does the actual product come from? Well, for that we have to go way down south to the VRAM Valley in Peru. This is ground zero, the very beginning of the supply chain. It's a lawless, dangerous region deep in the Andes Mountains that's become a fortress for cocaine producers, completely hidden from the rest of the world. And here, the key ingredient is the coca leaf. Now, it's super important to understand this. For thousands of years, this plant has been sacred in Peruvian culture. It's used totally legally in teas, in traditional medicines, in rituals. It's a huge part of their heritage. But in the global drug trade, this sacred plant becomes the raw material for a criminal empire. So how do you turn a leaf into cocaine paste? Well, it's a really crude, dangerous, low-tech process. Deep out in the jungle, a cocaine chef, a guy like Paco, he'll take the harvested leaves, dump them in a pit, and start mixing them with chemicals like gasoline. Then he'll heat the whole mess with sulfuric acid, which is incredibly hazardous, before finally pressing the paste into a 1 kilo brick. And right here, this is the economic engine that drives this entire global industry. That one brick of cocaine, the one Paco just risked his life and his freedom to make, earns him just $150. But by the time that same exact kilo is sold on the streets of the UK, its value has multiplied 1,000 times over, to more than $150,000. That insane profit margin is what fuels everything we're about to see. All right, let's move over to Colombia and see how this thing really scales up. Because getting the product from a hidden jungle lab to the global market requires some serious logistical genius. After Pablo Escobar was taken down, the Colombian cartels became the absolute masters of smuggling, and they came up with these incredibly clever and innovative ways to move huge amounts of cocaine around the world. I mean, their methods range from the brutally simple to the just mind-bogglingly complex. They can pack $500,000 worth of heroin into a secret compartment in a car in under 10 minutes. Or they'll use these silent, engineless canoes to paddle right up to massive container ships in the dead of night to load their product. But their most impressive trick is something else entirely. Yep, you heard that right. In secret factories hidden deep in the jungle, with no massive dry docks, no teams of fancy engineers, the cartels build their own custom submarines. And these aren't just little tin cans. They're sophisticated pieces of engineering designed for one purpose and one purpose only: long-range, stealthy drug trafficking. The payoff for that kind of insane ingenuity? It's staggering. This number, $73 million, is the estimated value of the cocaine they found on just one of these narco subs when the Colombian Navy finally caught it. When the rewards are that high, I guess no idea is too crazy.
But look, this business isn't just built on clever logistics and wild innovation. Its real foundation is violence. And the critical thing to understand is that this isn't random chaos. The murder, the torture, the fear, it's all part of the business plan. They're calculated tools used to enforce contracts, eliminate the competition, and maintain absolute control.
And to make that violence effective, you need a constant supply of killers. This quote from a former cartel hitman, it just reels the horrifying reality of their training. New recruits aren't shooting at paper targets in some camp. No, they're forced to practice on live human beings, usually members of rival cartels, which turns them into desensitized weapons for the organization.
And the result of that kind of industrialized violence is a human toll that is almost impossible to comprehend. In Mexico's drug war alone, over 200,000 people have been killed. To put that in perspective, that's more lives than were lost during the entire war in Afghanistan. These individual acts of brutality add up to a full-blown national catastrophe.
And when you break down the economics of it, the picture just gets even grimmer. At the very bottom, you've got a backpacker, a mullah, who risks a 60-mile trek through the jungle carrying product for just 150 pounds. A hitman, a sicario, will take someone's life for about $800. And a journalist like Javier Valdez, who dared to report on the cartels, well, he paid the ultimate price just for telling the truth.
So you've got this whole corporate structure, production, logistics, and violent enforcement. How is the world fighting back? Well, for decades, billions of dollars have been spent on a military-style war on drugs. But based on everything we've just seen, you have to start asking yourself, is that approach even working?
Let's go back to the source for a second. When the authorities mount this huge helicopter assault to destroy one of those crude processing pits in Peru, it gets described as a pointless exercise. It's a big show of force, sure, but the cartels just build another one down the river the very next day. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket.
And that brings us to the core argument here. The problem isn't the labs or the submarines or even the hitmen. Those are all just symptoms. The root cause, the argument goes, is the desperation that fuels every single step of this supply chain. From the farmer in Peru to the sicario in Colombia, the people doing the dirty work are doing it because they feel like they have no other choice. So we follow the supply chain of a global business that's built on coca leaves, logistical genius, and strategic terror. But at its heart, what really powers it are people with no other prospects. And that leaves us with one final big question. What if we've been fighting the wrong war this whole